It's the state of the dungeon. It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hello friends, I am Rob, and this is my State of the Dungeon address. This is for the game that took place on the 11th of November in the year 2021. The game Paranoia from Mongoose. A bit different than other Paranoia games that I've run. And the first part of the night was taken up by character generation. Character generation process for Paranoia is fairly streamlined and designed to get the players at each other's necks. Because when the players choose something good for themselves, they penalize another player so that they're bad at what the person who chose a positive trait is good at. So that went around the table a few times, and in the end the characters all got characters that have strengths and some pretty hefty flaws. So they're kind of interconnected and interdependent on each other because nobody is good at absolutely everything. The action started after everybody had their characters in hand. They were all watching the nightly showing of Tila O'Malley's drama, where she plays Tila O'Malley is a celebrity in the in Alpha Complex, one of the most widely recognized vid-screen stars. And she's playing as somebody who is lured to being a traitor, and when confronted by troubleshooters, she renounces them, turns in all of her secret society evildoers, and then bravely sacrifices herself, wishing only that she could have served the computer better. And in the middle of this broadcast gets hacked, and treasonous music starts playing overhead. The party is whisked off, barely getting a chance to talk to each other, before they are confronted with a superior of blue security clearance who tells them that they have been selected to join with over 20 other teams to go and try to find the source of these transmissions. And the most likely place that has been narrowed down by the computer is in the sewers, where they were immediately sent to and off without any other equipment or so much as a how do you do, there to try to find the source of the treason. Well, as they were walking along, they found that, of course, the sewers are unpleasant, possibly the only place more unpleasant than the food vats. That actually is debatable. And as they were walking around, they encountered some of the denizens. First of all, they encountered small, brown, furry drones. They don't know what rats are. But they saw them, and they shot at them. The fight was very quick, and it ended when one of the clones shot the wall and hit a gas main and blew all of the rats off of the catwalk. So we didn't have to worry about the rats anymore. Just a little collateral damage, nothing too serious. But the person who perpetrated the rat destruction got picked as the #1 clone in the group, and he enjoyed that tremendously. So the group was traveling along after that encounter, and eventually got to a point where the catwalk on their side had fallen into disrepair. On the other side, they could still go, but that would involve crossing a 15-foot wide gap of not something you don't want to think too much about. So the group decided, and the interested parties agreed, that 2 people getting a little bit of sewage on them wasn't so bad compared to the whole group. So if the 2 biggest and strongest of their number could carry the others across the flow, everything would be fine. And they went with it. And then the dice kicked in. There weren't any successes, not any way that stopped people from getting a dunk. There was only, I believe, 2 full immersions, though, where people went completely into the sewage. Otherwise, everybody at least got their boots mucked, and a couple people got their backs mucked, which, not pleasant at all. So they got around to the other side, but before they did that, the clone, who was being nice enough to ferry people, got her boot nipped by something in the sludge. And I should get into the habit of calling the clones by their names. This particular clone, her name was Che, and she lost her boot when a Robogator bit her and swam off with it. But she got out without losing anything more, so that was good. The group eventually was walking around different lengths of it, exploring some of the more treacherous areas, when they came across a bypass section, which looked interesting. So they explored that and found that there was a large cleaning drone. Looked a little bit like the cleaner from Labyrinth, the big tunnel chewing, yeah. So they evaded it. Some of them did it only by swimming into the muck. Others did it by running back and ducking into an alcove. Nobody got hurt, although some people are now completely filthy. But quickly, one of the clones, Carl R-U-S-T, dashed back and actually reprogrammed the bot very quickly and very effectively to follow his commands. So the group then realized, if this thing is going first, no problems are going to come for them, so they turned it around and they sent it down the corridor and they followed it until it got into a wider flow. This one was for less soil, less biocontaminated stuff, and mostly looked like industrial-grade detergents down this flow, heading to a water processing plant. They, being smart troubleshooters, realized that the cleaner couldn't fit across the whole thing and probably wasn't going to help them anymore from here. So they kind of let it go to hang out over by the entrance and to be programmed to follow if they start screaming for it. So it will orient on screams. That's interesting to know. Going a little bit further, the group found an electrified screen cutting off the tunnel. They didn't know it was electrified, but they did find out that the electrical controls were booby-trapped, which immediately turns out that they have a pretty good demolitions expert in Reed. Reed R-E-K-R. Reed Wrecker. And sure enough, he was able to disarm the explosive device, and they were able to move the screening. They passed by that little nasty, what looked like it was a deterrent for the rats, certainly. They went further along and they found out that it looked like at one point the tunnel had been blocked by a large amount of wood debris. Broken crates, pallets, boxes, the remains of which were piled up both on their catwalk and the catwalk across the flow. So they decided, ooh, there might be something valuable in here, something we can use. So they all jumped in to go and start exploring. Unfortunately for them, that was a trap, and a large cargo net lifted up, trying to trap them and the wreckage together and swing them out over the water. Only Carl got away from this, so the group was left dangling like fish and all compressed in with all this, these wood splinters up in this net. Well, Carl pulled out his laser and he shot at the point near the ceiling where the clip was that was hanging, holding them up. The group realized that if he shot that and actually had severed the rope, that would have sent them plunging down into the water, still bound up, which probably would have cost 5 clones, quite honestly. So they weren't so keen to die like that, so they all tried to wriggle out with their lasers and shoot netting to try to free themselves. This did not go very well. Turned out that Rose, R-M-R-Y, blasted, instead of the net, she shot a bit of the wood. Specifically the wood that was next to the face of Toys. Toys R-U-S. And started a fire. Now they're all trapped in the net, and the net is on, or the wood inside that they're with is now on fire. This is looking bad. But a couple of people do score some hits on the net to help. Barely. Nothing fantastic to, like, cut a hole using the laser, which would have been cool. But the flames did leap from the fire and catch to the net and started burning the net, which did help to create a gap. The group then tried to get out as best they could through that gap. It didn't go very well for Rose. She dropped straight in, very ungracefully, got a big gulp of horribly tainted water, and it was the quick thinking of Shay, who is very much the athlete, to dive down, pull her up, and ferry her over. I shouldn't overlook the fact that Shay heroically also did save Reed by grabbing him and saving him from the cleaner. So, you know, her athletics has really made her an asset, which is good. And eventually the group manages to get to the bank. Some of them by swimming across and doing a capable enough athletics job. But eventually the whole net just went sploosh in, and they were able to use the rope to drag themselves back to shore. So once over, now all the people who ended up in the drink are no longer in red armor. They are now in pink armor, as it has been bleached, as has their skin. They're all very pale and their skin is itchy, but what do you do? And they were told, "Freeze! Throw down your weapons." And they saw a very old man with a, well, no, he didn't look old. He just has this big, wild, untamed beard and armor that is basically gone brown, so you can't tell what the color is. And he had a still very functional looking laser rifle pointed in their direction. He completely had the drop on them. If any of them had moved, he probably could have plugged them without a difficulty. And the barrel was clean enough that they could see that it has a blue barrel, which could sive through their armor like nothing. The fact that he was covering them very competently made them think that if fighting him probably would have been suicide for the person who first tried. So, the group talked. He seemed like he was very happy to have caught the commies that he was sent down to get. The fact they're all communist traitors and he'll be able to turn them in and finally get out of the sewers. Yeah, he was very happy, but it's also clear that he's a little disjointed. His mind was kind of going, all the while the traitorous music was going on overhead. Eventually the group sidetracked him from the idea of turning them in to helping them find where the music was coming from. And he was on board with this. There were some excellent rolls, and this is one of those ones where Carl really did help out by baffling him and wrecking his mind even more by attacking him with bureaucracy and throwing all different kinds of avenues that he just couldn't get through. Eventually the others found they could use very simple arguments to make him do what they wanted to do. So he is now the #1 of the computer. And he said, "Okay, well, I know where the sounds are coming from. I'll take you in that direction. I'm also going to work to take care of their sentries. The only reason I didn't go after them is because any good troubleshooter knows you don't go in when you're severely outnumbered." Didn't know anything on the nature of the traitors, however, just where they were, and the group was happy enough to get the help. So he led them to another trunk tunnel, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to go this way and take out their sentries. If you go straight down this way, you'll come right to where the traitors are." All right, they're happy to go. So they go down the tunnel. It's kind of dark. But that's where we ended it, going down the tunnel. It may not have been the most action in a given night, but again, they made up their characters, so we're all good for that. And starting next time, after an extra 2-week delay, because Thanksgiving, right in the middle of everything, we are going to have a heck of a time picking that up. and giving them a little bit more of a traditional troubleshooter welcome to the world of Alpha Complex and Paranoia. But nobody died, interestingly, as we're all learning the mechanics a little bit. And, yeah, so far everyone's working together. We'll see if that continues, too. So, I'm Rob. That's been my State of the Dungeon address. Hope you've enjoyed it and looking forward to better things to come yet. And until that next time, farewell.